The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of this station and/or Confederation College.
And welcome to the Mind Vault.
Welcome to the Mind Vault.
We're going to see how far down the rabbit hole we can go today.
We're going to take a look inside.
We are going to take a look inside the Mind Vault.
Yes.
I'm your host, Ava Shriver-Dunn.
And I'm Kevin Dunn.
And today we have a very special guest with us, and we're just going to get right into it because there's a lot of things we want to talk about today. And who we have with us today is Kevin Najuan. Kevin is Anishinaabe, Three Fires, Potawatomi, Ojibwe, Odawa. I'm sorry, Kevin, if I got that wrong. Odawa. Turtle Clan from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, a member of Batchewana First Nation Band of Ojibways. Kevin has spent his life living and learning traditional and modern knowledge and experience to help fulfill his dreams, visions, and higher spiritual callings of helping bridge traditional and modern knowledge, resources, and bringing people together. Kevin resigned from in 2010 from his federal government position to follow his higher callings and has since helped to start a not-for-profit called Seventh Generation Healing Network. And he helped organize a healing prayer journey called the Walk for Nations, which took a team of 4 youth and 4 young adults, 8 months and 8,000 kilometers. Yes, I said 8,000 kilometers across Canada, sharing their stories, doing ceremony, and building traditional networks and human unity. Kevin's mission is to continue to help bridge traditional and modern knowledge, resources, and people to harmonize themselves with each other and the world around them for future generations with land-based projects and art, music, cultural, and educational workshops. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Well, welcome, and thank you very much, Ava and Kevin, and listeners and viewers. I'm honored to be here to share with yous. And I'm very excited.
Well, we were so fortunate yesterday to get to know Kevin because he came to town with the Modern Knowledge Tour, which we hosted at the Mind Vault yesterday. Huge success at that conference. And he was among some pretty fascinating people, Michael Tellinger and Richard Dolan. And Kevin was one of the speakers too. And I'll tell you what, we were really impressed with what Kevin had to share with us, with his traditional teachings. And one thing I found really interesting, Kevin, when we were listening to you speak was the teachings, though they may be traditional First Nations teachings, I felt were extremely universal, really relevant to absolutely anybody, and especially relevant for these times.
Yes, and that is the message, and the sharing of it is universality of finding us all as one mind, one heart in this journey. And I'm privileged and honored to be able to have brought these teachings forward, and engaging with one another. And it was a very powerful time yesterday, and
it
every
really
day,
was. Yeah, and I know we talked after, Kevin, earlier today, and you commented on how it was such a diverse group of people. I mean, it was so nice to see really people of different ages there, and definitely engaged in the information that was being shared. And it was how nice it was to see that people are really waking up.
Well, this is it, is with our sharing, with the Mind Vault, with your guys, launch pad, so to speak, there to help bring people together through knowledge and education and sharing and networking. This is really where we're at today, is to create our own healthy networks for ourselves, our families, our communities, and bringing in guests that have gone out there and are bringing home those bridges that they've crossed. And it's like in the old days when you bring, put a scout out in the land and you send him out and he returns back with the knowledge of what is out there. And you know what? You'll sit and listen to these scouts that come back because you know what? Your hunt depends on it. Your survival depends on it as to, where are we going to go? So, I'm honored to have been able to go out and bring back.
Yeah, it's interesting that you use that analogy because really with the three of you, with all three of you yesterday, it really felt like that's exactly what it was. You've all gone out, you've been the scouts, you've taken a look at things from a much deeper perspective than most people have. And then you came back and you shared that wisdom and that knowledge. And there's a lot of power in that.
I think too, Kevin, as you just mentioned, that it's necessary in that context of a scout going out and searching for, the herds that you're following as it's like a metaphor for survival for the clan. Right now, it's extremely important because it's a distinct parallel with where humanity's at right now. We're at a very tenuous point in evolution in the history of this planet where we are potentially facing our own extinction. And if we don't come together to solve the issues that have put us here in the first place and draw on people like yourselves and Michael and Richard that were there yesterday to share this information to more and more and more people, there could be some serious repercussions in the not too distant future. So, the information you had was great.
Well, absolutely. As Army in modern warfare, they do reconnaissance, whether it's technological or out on the land. You lose your radio contact. My grandfather was a radio signalman out in the front lines with artillery. He was a sniper, and he went out there. And we're doing the same thing, is that we're going out there for our children, for our future generations, and we're breaking down these lies and these illusions that have been put on us.
That's
to
right.
be slave job workers and what have you, and a little of my history, I did break out of those chains, and we are all chained in some sort of way, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and the work ahead of us is going to be that. And excuse me, and being an honor to be able to bring our ancient messages forward, because that was our goal when we first got ourselves together as nations, meeting each other and building treaties and relationships, was that we were to build a nation together, and that our interests would be collectively acknowledged and brought forward, and that here we are today. We have a whole bunch of knowledge from the Americas here, and traditional knowledge around the world, red, yellow, black, white, that we're beginning to witness come through, and people are bringing it in and absorbing it and becoming that for today. So these traditional histories are coming forward, and I'm honored to have went through my own homework, my own struggles as an individual, and as well as to hold up my community and my clan and my people. And I have to bridge that, and I'm working with the ones that are ready. Not everyone's ready. We have to do our homework. We can't jump from kindergarten to university.
Yeah.
Or expect the changes through leadership, governments. We have to be the changers, right? And,
you got to be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly.
As
So
Gandhi said,
these reconnaissance of education coming back is so important. As I do share, like the longest distance on earth is from the mind to the heart, and then back from the mind to the heart, to the heart to the mind. And having gone across Canada, was one of our goals was to empower the youth, the children, our elders, our people, and getting ourselves out of these ruts that aren't ours. Drugs, alcohol,
Right.
abuse, residential schools, historical traumas, and racial. Okay, you know what? The reality is we have to climb up and get above that and get back to who we were. Was welcoming people. We give thanks. Our Thanksgiving ceremonies are every day. And you know what? If it's the buffet is there, some people want to eat all the buffet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the buffet was here, and now is everybody full?
Yeah.
Right.
So we have a lot of sharing to do on many levels, and I think this is the beauty of the celebration of these times. Is people may see that this is atrocious times, which it is, and darkness, and
It's definitely trying. Yeah. For some people.
yes, and then there's the do or do not. There is no try, where we are able to take sacred knowledge, traditional teachings, and respectfully bring them forward in honor to help each other, right? Because there's no gain. I'm not platforming. I'm not looking for stardom or anything for Kevin. It's just really for my children and
Right.
for my family and your family as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because when lights go out and stuff, do we know how to make a fire? Do we know where our water is? Do we know where our food is? Do we know where our children are? They're out at school. So these some real things,
One
Well,
thing I took away from yesterday, if you don't mind me jumping
Go
in,
ahead.
Kevin, was you talked about the 7 generations and how traditionally that's what First Nations people believed, is that when you make certain decisions, that you always consider 7 generations down the line.
Yes.
And so, can you just explain that a little bit for our listeners?
Yes, very simply is that everything we do and say will affect 7 generations down the road. So if we're going to build and cut and clear cut or rip into the earth or destroy waters and anything that will have an effect 7 generations, we have to be in consideration of that. So what's going on today is we have the greatest resources on earth in Canada and the United States, and they've been rampaged by corporate mentalities, and they have no consideration for their own people or for future generations. So not only are First Nations peoples throughout the world and in the Americas fighting against these corporate mentalities, but we're fighting against that ignorance for the future, because we all have to drink water, we have to find our resources, our foods. We're not just going to go to Walmart. We're not going to get the bottled water. We're not going to get this all handed to us. We're finding out what's being handed to us is toxicity, right? And it's genetically modified organic foods. It's mentalities, brainwash programming. It's GMOs, Monsanto. It's also New World Order. It's very far out stuff. There's no conspiracy here, people. You look at the histories of the Americas, they took the foods away from the people, killed the buffalo. Now they're fracking all the water resources, East Coast, coast to coast. And you know what? They have oil, they have petrol. Why are they destroying water? And water is the new future. It's
water
a
is
bottled
something
water,
we just can't live without.
$1.50, $2 for a bottle of water.
Oh yeah, it's more. It costs more than oil.
Yes, and
More
we're-
than gas.
And we're at the greatest, freshest waters on earth,
Right.
And you do a flip flop on the other side of the world, they're pure desert. They have salt water. They're maintaining, and
That's right.
we have a gift here, and we have to protect that, right? Responsibility.
I agree.
Well,
And-
that stewardship is paramount, and to introduce or to maintain the 7 generations idea into the decision-making process, I think a lot of politicians really need to grab a hold of this and truly understand what it means.
Well, yeah, because if that was the case, I mean, let's face it, Stephen Harper wouldn't have taken away all of the protected waterways
Yeah.
in Canada overnight, literally. I think it was last year that he did that, so...
Well, the governments have been hijacked by corporation, right? And the Crown
Totally,
Corporation
yeah.
is
Right.
a corporation. The Canadian government is a corporation. It doesn't matter Harper, young
Obama.
Trudeau, Obama,
Yeah.
Hudak, whatever. The reality is those are corporate interest-sponsored leaders that move in their interests for the corporation, whether they're going to be opening up the Ring of Fire up north here in Ontario, or looking at the Keystone XL pipelines, or looking at fracking, whatever it may be. These guys are designed to not work for the people. So the real thing about a chief is that a chief is a public servant. Sorry, a public servant. So those representatives are representing the people. So us as people, our councils have been hijacked, whether it's traditional or non-traditional, the people, and you're looking at the total annihilation, abolition of the Declaration of Independence in the United States, which was to protect you from the government. You have the right to unite. You have the right to speak your mind, be free to bear yourself of arms. The reason for bearing arms was to protect yourself from the government.
Right.
So we're seeing all kinds of mismanipulation of mind, body, and spirit and emotions to control this kind of slave mentality, slave job. Oh, I got to go to work. I got to pay my debt, and
Well,
all
I
the
mean,
time.
how many times have we heard, you go to school, get a good job, you get married, get the house, right? Get
Yeah.
the car,
Yeah.
right? It's just that expectation that we were all raised with, right? That's the goal, right?
Yes.
And I think that what's happening is as people are waking up, they're realizing, oh, there's so much more to life than just that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you mentioned earlier about the fact that we are all one, and I think the sooner that people wrap their heads around this concept that you and I are the same, all right, we're the same, and I mean, from a DNA perspective, I think we share 99.99% the same DNA as a banana or something.
Over 99% for sure.
It's something ridiculously high.
Not apes, eh? Bananas.
Bananas.
Like, seriously. So I mean, if we want to look at, so often, or we've been brought up to believe of what these differences are.
Yes.
Right. You look this way, therefore, right? That look equals such and such.
Yeah.
And I think people really need to grasp, and they have to get their head around the fact that we're all the same. We're in this pot together.
We're all in it together.
Because the guy driving the Mercedes sits under the same sun, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And breathes the same air
Yes.
as the guy on the street.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's gonna, if it comes down to that,
Yeah.
right, where the predicament is the same. It's not necessarily. It's like the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. I think that at the very end, the billionaire that had paid for his seat on the Ark, right, and there was no picking and choosing. It wasn't. Oh, you paid, come on. And at the end of the day, it was, when it came down to it, was everybody for themselves.
Well, you're looking at divide and conquer techniques, right?
Yeah, those are
Whether
the
you're looking at
tactics.
military interests, corporate interests, platform, political, or the world, or people, human beings, right? We've been divided, we've been segregated. There's Africa, Asia, America, Russia, Europe.
Of course, yeah.
And we're finding our multiculturalism coming together. Hey, there's pyramids here, there's pyramids there, there's circles here, there's colors, there's dancing, there's a real root history to, Europe and Africa and Asia and Americas. And what we're finding more is that we have already been connected, even before 1492. So we're going way back further, that, this world has been united and connected before, and
Well before.
and we have prophecies of how many worlds turned already. And at this world we've come to the prophecy time of that. We have now been given all those gifts once again, and we have a responsibility to the Spirit, right? And the Spirit is this coming through of the people. And this is where really the unity will happen, that we will be sharing the Spirit. And, in our prophecy today, that there's two roads going on right now, one leading to materialism, which will be in immediate destruction, and then there will be a spirituality, right?
Yep.
So that we now have an opportunity, and it's definitely the lifeline to everyone, that there is a spirit here that governs us, that it's the dream of the people, and there's a vision here that we have to allow our children, right? Our children come here with knowledge and everything they need, and it's like a seed. You plant the seed, you don't yell and scream at it to grow, and feed it all kinds of toxicities to grow even stronger, like these bovine injections into the cows that make our children like twice the size, and obesity, and fluoride in the water to make us grow and make our teeth shine and whatever. The reality is nature has already given us, and we have to be back to natural parents and families, that we've already got what it is. Our gardens are out in, not in Walmart, but up in these existing forests that are here.
Right.
You bring up
medicines.
a really good point, Kevin, and I just wanted to touch on that again, is that you mentioned that, well, here we go down the rabbit hole, that our history is not what we think it is, or not what we were taught in school. And that was something that really, I know I talked to a gal after the conference yesterday, and she said to me, and she was quite shooken up by some of the information that the three of you shared, and she said, I need to go home and process now. And I said, really? She said, I said, you didn't know these things? She goes, I had no idea. And she said, so you want to talk about mind blown? She said, my mind is so blown right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But she wasn't in fear. That's what I thought was interesting, because I
Right.
said, we can't be letting ourselves get into fear here. I mean, and she said, no. I just really need to process it. I'm okay with it. I can accept it, but I just really need to process it.
Yes.
And I know that she left feeling empowered with the information,
Yes.
not fearful of it, which I thought was really key.
Right.
But I think too, like we talked about, some people maybe aren't ready for the information, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We have to honor people where they're at. But I think that for those people who are ready, that's where we need to go. That's kind of the starting point, is bringing together those people who are ready, who can accept that maybe what we learned in school wasn't exactly true.
Just because it's in a textbook
Yeah.
doesn't
and
necessarily make it.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to draw on something that we saw yesterday with Michael Tellinger, when he talked about the giants,
Yes.
right? That he has found these huge
5-foot
footprints in
footprints.
granite, and the giant itself would have to be 7 meters tall.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit mind-blowing for those.
Well, I'll blow your mind a little more. Look at
Okay.
this sleeping giant just offshore here.
Right.
We have histories that he's going to wake up, and, our mentality and our mind about really what is a giant, the stones, the world, the nations of the stars, and the trees and the rocks, they're alive and they can talk. We've lost that language,
That's right.
And we are selfish for various reasons. We've been colonized. Our programming, our minds have been colonized. We've been hijacked. Our bodies have been hijacked. The land has been hijacked. We're in this divide and conquer once again. So yes, we are going to have to be patient with people with regards to the overwhelming of knowledge and sharing, because of the capacity that people have been brought up with, and some are ready. We have 500 years that we've been trying to tell and talk to people. So look how patient we've been.
Right.
You try to change someone.
We could probably
overnight.
wait another couple of months, I guess. Eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. I mean, even if you just look at yesterday, though, there were at least 60 people, if not 70 people
70,
in that
yeah.
room yesterday that were ready, right?
Yeah.
In this what would be considered a small city of Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not even, that's not everybody, of course, but I mean, that's pretty substantial, I think. I mean, it's like you said, we planted a seed yesterday, and, we created that community just by bringing the Modern Knowledge Tour here and having people like you there to speak and share that wisdom that you've been privy to. And really, I don't know about you, but I kind of think the wisdom's within all of us. We just need to bring it back out.
Truly so.
Yeah.
Truly so. So we're team building. We're
Right.
not finding any kind of salvation through the churches, the schools, the politics, the government. When I was younger, an elder had told me through my frustrations and anxieties with the systems. He said, Kevin, it's not the schools, the churches, the governments, the institutions that are the problem. It's the people running them. So when we're looking at educating future leaders, we're bringing out what they already have, and we're
Right.
reminding them of who they are. And that's, just that we are beyond our imagination in a way, right?
Absolutely.
The connection of water consciousness, the connection of universal consciousness, and our health and well-being. There's so many world esoteric knowledges that are coming together to insist and to reaffirm our relationships. So it is very exciting to
It is.
be sharing. We're not dodging bombs and bullets here in Canada, United States. We're dodging phone calls, issues, and debts and debt collectors, and some of these real issues, right? Because
Yeah,
it's safe.
just a
It
different
all-
medium.
It is
Yeah.
a different medium, but it all keeps us disempowered and enslaved,
Yeah.
right? Like Michael Tellinger talked about yesterday.
Right.
Keeps
yeah.
us enslaved.
And we're realizing that too. You do a little homework with New World Order and these kind of systems that are running, Illuminatus and World Bank, and keeping people. These guys are building fortresses and empires from nothing, from the slavery of people. your money and your investment. You know, do a little homework into the Federal Reserve System and in Canada and how that's infiltrated Canada. And you know, there's European countries that have kicked out the New World Order. You know, the world banking systems, and you know, the United Nations itself is built and promotes Illuminatus and New World Orders. We have to be aware of that, right?
Right.
But we have to be compassionate too. People say, "Oh, they're Luciferians and devils." You know, if you look at the bottom line of, okay, if God created his first angel, Lucifer. Lucifer in Latin is light bringer, right? He's got the worst job
Right.
to bring the dark to the light, right?
Right.
So you know what? The Creator's looking after us with nanotechnology and this subversive, mind-altering programming, what have you. You know, the Creator is already here. You know, and
Right.
you call him God, Allah, or Muhammad, or whatever you want to call these prophets and this movement from the source knowledge. It's already looked after. The language with the animals, we have that with the trees, with the universe. We can astral project, we can travel, and it's amazing, you know. And they don't want us to remember that, right? They utilize sacred geometry and knowledge from Egypt, Knights of Templar, all these very esoteric kind of control stuff. But they utilize sacred knowledge that was given to help the people against the people, right?
Right, right.
Right.
So it's like a vehicle. We can run all around, but we can utilize it as a good way too, you know?
Right. So now you bring up another really interesting point, that Lucifer actually means light bringer.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just take it back to maybe someone like Adolf Hitler then, right? I mean, he committed great atrocities. He's definitely been seen as, you know, as the evil one.
Yeah.
And we have a different take on it, because we kind of have the perspective that he actually really stimulated the world to make a huge shift in their consciousness.
It was a corporate war.
Oh,
And,
sure.
you know,
Oh,
they,
yeah, for
they
sure.
utilize the swastika from the Native American symbology of the emergence out of the earth, out to the directions, and they would all turn right. Hence the four directional crooked cross, the swastika. And Hitler himself
That's
is
used
also
in Hinduism as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
a
peace
global.
sign.
Yes, yeah, and it's a beautiful, loving sign. And you know
Wow.
what? It was used in an opposite direction. And you know, some of Hitler's pre-planning on putting camps out there and controlling people, he learned that from how the U.S. done concentration camps in the murdering and killing of indigenous American, Native Americans, right?
Wow.
You know, on the $20 bill, there's Andrew Jackson, and he was the designer and promoter and the one who wrote the extermination policies of Native Americans, and he's still on the $20 bill.
Amazing.
So there's a saying that says, if Hitler was on the $20 bill, how would the Jews feel?
Right.
You know, so
Right.
so we're being coverted through, you know, like there's teachings in the Bible that the dark will be using the light to manipulate us. So that's fine. You know, we're all in the day and we're all in the night, but we have to understand those worlds, you know?
Yeah.
Well, ignoring that they exist is not solving the problem.
No,
right?
I just want to go to sleep, wake up in the daytime. I'm not going to go at night.
Right.
No.
But remember, too, I mean, and I'm going to quote Virginia Satir again,
Yeah.
because even stronger than the fight for survival is the fight to keep things familiar.
Right.
Okay, so a lot of
Comfortable.
comfortable.
Right.
So what that means is that if someone's in their box, right, and the box contains, you know, the car, the job, right, my education, right. Here's the certificate that says I'm qualified to do X, Y, and Z.
My secure income.
Right, my secure
Yeah.
income. I mean, I left the OPP.
Yeah.
Right, the very first thing that people said were, "How come you quit your
Good paying
good
job.
paying job,
Secure job.
secure job,
Yeah.
benefits, etc., etc."
But the realization that there was something so much more.
There was something more.
Yes.
And something compelling you, and you felt driven
Yep.
to a higher calling, and you can relate to this
And
too,
that's
right?
passion. What we're realizing, exactly what you said. I had the gravy job with the government. I
Yeah.
could
Right.
sit there and twiddle, or I was very active, and I was very active, so active that I got involved with the union because I found their shortcomings, and then I got labeled in the darkness because of my proactiveness for the rights and responsibilities for our coworkers and
Right,
myself. So yes, we are leaving these day bread and butter jobs, and I'm going to tell everyone out there that's listening that yes, follow your passion. If you let go of that anxiety and that debt, you know what, it's going to hang out there still. But
Yep.
you know what, follow your passion. You'll be rewarded beyond your belief, and it's going to be
Absolutely.
some good hard work. But it's going to be the work that your heart is going to be involved with your mind, and you're going to take back control. And you work with like-minded peoples, build a team. You can do your own fundraising, do your own networking. You know, I've got fish, he's got wild meat, he's got wood. We can build something together, right? And
Yeah.
you know,
Right, and that's actually really what we want to do at the Mind Vault, and we've talked about this at length
Right.
today, and that is to bring entrepreneurs together
Mm.
so that they can co-create and collaborate on different projects. Because we don't always have the money to employ or contract somebody else to do something to offer a skill to a project that we necessarily don't have that skill. And so we really want to create the Mind Vault to be that space where co-creatives can come together and say, wow, you know, you do this, you do this, you do that. Well, let's come together and let's do something together, right?
absolutely. And you know what? Talk about organized crime. You know, we got to face reality. The government is an organized crime. You know,
Whoa.
you know, I will jump out there and say that it's a corporation. You know, the city of Thunder Bay is a corporation.
It
It's run
is.
by Chamber of Commerce.
New Brunswick's a corporation, Ontario's a corporation, Alberta's they're all corporations.
Yes, and they're run by Chamber of Commerce, and there's Freemason lodges within the cities, and they govern and they see who's going to get what and how.
And they're what is it? They're bought and sold on the stock
Yeah,
exchange.
absolutely.
That's
Michael Tellinger
amazing.
did mention, and he had the information that they are numbers, and they're all sharing. You know, our birth certificates are numbers. We're all, you know, we're all part of this grid that they're imposing on us, and
Right.
it's good. It's the battle of light and dark, we could say, but really, let's not entertain the darkness anymore. The reality is that
That's
it's
right.
a time of celebration.
Yeah.
You know,
Stay focused on the solutions.
yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll be able to hold our minds and hearts in a good way through teachings, ancient teachings, or even modern knowledge too. And
Yeah.
it is connected, you know.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, we have to bring it all together. All right, and this is one of the interesting things about an evolution in thought, and that is, I mean, Einstein said is that you can't solve a problem from the same level of thinking that created the problem.
Yes.
So you have to expand your thinking. And the neat thing is when you evolve your thinking to a stage where instead of looking at this is the solution for problem X, right? But it's not solving the problem, and you keep running the same solution, and it's not working.
Well, that's like the
Yes.
definition of insanity.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah,
You end
or
up in
vote
this
for
loop.
me and we'll make this change. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vote for change.
Right.
No.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what happens is that when your thinking evolves, you can look objectively at these quote unquote solutions and say, do we have any other options? And then more options will then become available. And when an option doesn't work, you can discard it as opposed to try to run it again and again and again.
Yeah, and there's other choices.
And there's other choices.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, vote for me, right? Vote for change. Really? Right? Prove it. How is that going? How are you going to do that?
Make all these promises. Then when you're in,
Yeah.
you break them all and you just run.
How are you going to
Right.
do
False.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay,
Kevin.
I'll talk about something
Yeah.
like that, right? Traditional government as well. Okay, we're imposed with Canada. It's got no jurisdiction, no jurisprudence in these territories. It's a crown corporation called Canada, and the Queen left. She left the representatives here. They're called prime ministers and premiers, and they're local and regional representatives of a political corporate mentality. Now, they're also in our communities. They're called band offices, right? And these band offices are led by a chief and council, which are not traditional councillors and band officers. They're actually, when I was involved with the union, I was going to unionize the band offices just so that our people can understand that those are workers that are following and holding the line for the Indian
For the
Affairs,
government.
Indian Act, right?
Right.
So we have traditional councils and fires and leaders that we're now empowering ourselves to take back our sovereignty, and our sovereignty is with Creator. And every one of us has our own relationship with the Creator, and we're going to call that out, and we're going to bring that back, and we're going to bring back our territories. And you know, you see a lot of the First Nations standing strong for water and the resources, and we're finding alliances. And we're not finding it coming through politics or any corporation. They're trying to discredit the movement of the people, calling us terrorists or a threat to national security. Or, you know, we're going to change this, and we're going to have to do this together. So we have land that's ours, and they're utilizing this and spoiling those resources. They're taking the lands and waters and corrupting them so that we will be dependent upon them. So
Yeah, and I just want to point out, Kevin, because I know we chatted earlier, so I know what you mean when you say ours.
yes.
You don't mean just First Nations.
No,
you
and
mean
you look
all
at
of
the
us.
medicine wheel and our histories, right? Of course, we have certain mindsets, right? Like, oh, the white man did this and white man did that. We have to get back to the mentality, right? Europe was colonized about 1,000+ years before they reached the Americas. They did the witch hunts, which were sacred people. The Wiccans were actually, Wicca means unlicensed sorcerer in Old English. So how could you take a beautiful woman or man that was a natural, supernatural, helping and healing
healer,
the people,
yeah.
and put him on the cross? If you don't submit to Christianity, we're going to burn you, right?
Right.
And, and this is what they did in Europe with the Druids and the Celtics and
Yep.
traditional
Pagans,
peoples.
yep.
And, the Braveheart movie, right? When you look
Right.
at the nobles coming in on traditional territories, right?
Right.
So you have to look at your history. So
And it
yes,
keeps getting replayed over and over.
so that
and
history
over.
is definitely your history, and our history is your history. So
Right.
the key to our misery lies in our history.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we want to just remind everybody that's listening that this is in fact a call-in show.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean, we've touched on a lot of different topics, and I'm sure listeners are out there and they've got questions. So if you want to call in, the number is 807-473-3800. Feel free to call in at any time,
Yeah.
because we may have some answers or certainly a different perspective on things. So
Yes, the mystery. You put
Yeah.
a call out there, you'll be called
Right.
back, right?
yeah,
I want to just get back to the government just briefly, and this isn't a government bashing show or anything.
No.
not at all.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's
we
just
can't
talking.
blame
It's
them.
just speaking
Yeah.
the truth, right?
yeah, they're doing the best they can with what they have.
That's right.
Forgive
And
them for they not know what they do.
That's right. and let's face it, we know that the government is just they're puppets. They're controlled too.
Day
You know?
jobs, yes.
Yeah, it's their day jobs. But I just want to get back to that because I know somebody had mentioned last night just about another right that they're talking about stripping away, and I know we talked about this today, Kevin, and that is that alternative healing or alternative medicine.
Yes.
I mean, with Bill C-36 back in 2011, we saw a lot of those rights be stripped away anyway for natural medicines.
Yeah, resources.
I don't know if a lot of people understand the scope.
The
No,
gravity
They
of
want to
this.
continue the sickness. Come into our, take our pharmaceutical drugs, take our Western knowledge, right? We don't want to hear about sacred knowledge and sacred histories of homeopathy or natural healing with hands-on Reiki or,
Yep.
or esoteric healing practices like from Hinduism right to Asian Qi and
Right.
or
Reiki.
Which don't
acupuncture or
have the
something.
negative
and
side
acupuncture.
effects.
No, this is global indigenous healing and
Right.
health.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And it's
wellness.
been around for thousands of
And
years.
thousands of years.
Yes.
And so what I thought was really interesting is when we chatted about it, Kevin, you had a very clear solution. If it were to come to pass that the government did pass this new bill, which I'm not sure what the number is, but this new bill that would really strip away or highly regulate, over-regulate, we will say, all of these traditional healings or alternative medicines or whatever it might be, that you had a very good solution for that. So I'd really like to, I think that's a nice segue to talk about the project that you're potentially, well, I know that you'll make it happen, but I really think it's important for people to know about that project. So if you don't mind elaborating on that.
Yes, so enough for entertaining the outside. We have to entertain the inside. And
That's
what we
right.
have within ourselves and our peoples and our elders is that we have the empowerment, the power to be able to do this. And we're falling on deaf ears. There's logging trucks racing through our territories, mining interests in our territories. We have to circle up, rebuild ourselves with allies, and we have to utilize what we have, which is the truth and the honesty and the 7 grandfather teachings that are truth, honesty, wisdom, courage, humility, respect, and love. And those 7 teachings help guide us and keep us in parameters that we are all on the same page. So no matter how far out you go, you check yourself in one of those teachings, you'll find yourself in one of those teachings. So what we're doing, and I'm networking with traditional peoples, that we're going to start rebuilding ourselves with living learning centers out on the land
Nice.
that will be off the grid. We'll be looking at traditional harvesting, traditional knowledge with modern tools, resources, and people. And what it will be is what the people will make it happen. I'm not going to go in there and tell them, okay, here's what it's going to be, here's a solution, but I'm going to allow them to absorb and to find, because there are cultural integrity and protocols in different territories. You know, the Mi'kmaq are different, the Blackfoot are different, the Anishinaabeg are different, right? And we are all looking at the universality of the same thing, as to protect our children, to protect our resources, to protect ourselves. And we're not finding it with these corporate culture, governments, and what have you. We have to bring the old new again, and this is what has been prophesized, and this is where it's shattering these foundations. You know, so we're going back to the old,
Yeah.
which is new, and it's amazing.
Making the old new again.
Yeah.
Yes, and these will start with our own homes, our own. You have to start with the self, right, before you can work on your family.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then when your family's well, you work on your local community, and then your community works on your nation, right? So this is not happening overnight. Rome was not built overnight. And we're not building an empire. We're just rehabilitating ourselves as human beings. And
Right.
that's what
We're
initially...
unhijacking ourselves.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
we're taking back the empowerment of what is Kevin here for? What is Ava here for? Right?
Yeah.
What are our listeners here for? Right? And we're not here for that the big car and the boat and the camp. You know, we're looking at sustainable living and learning, and the real passion of what your spirit is here for on earth. You know,
Yeah.
so this is our teachings as Anishinaabeg people, and as around the world, that we have spiritual teachings that will help. And that energy is beyond these wires and stuff. Tesla tapped into different realms of energy, you know, and
Yeah.
inventors that bringing natural science and spiritual science, cosmic science back to Earth, you know. So we have to get ready to the capacity, because we could be overwhelmed. It could be like a nightmare or like culture shock. You can't take someone from a traditional community and put them into a city without building up to them, or bring them back home.
Well, this is what we see actually in Thunder Bay a lot, right?
Oh.
Because a lot of the northern communities and northern First Nations communities, they end up getting transplanted here
Yes.
for education purposes, or maybe to find work or whatever it might be, or they have something happen in their community. Maybe they have no water, which a lot of them don't, and they end up getting brought to Thunder Bay.
Yeah, and there's no-
they're in total culture shock.
Absolutely, and see, they watch it all on TV up in their northern communities, and they would love a taste of that. McDonald's, the
Right.
TV, the music, the hip hop, the style, the
yeah.
life, and they don't get it. And then when they come down, you know that they're totally left on their own to be able to be a student down here, or to come and work, or to explore this world. And
overwhelming.
it could be overwhelming, and we
Sure.
need to help each other. And that's where I'm saying that we embrace these transitions and bridge building, and you know, we blame drugs and alcohol in the history that is very relevant to those transitions, but we have to be most compassionate as to why and where and how this is happening. So vice versa, we have inner city native youth and people that have not been out on the land. So when they go out on the land, they get the same culture shock too.
Right.
Well,
So-
there's organizations in the U.S.
Yes.
that specialize in this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they
Meaning?
take people from the downtowns or the inner city.
That have
Yeah.
never seen.
Yeah, never been in nature.
Trees.
Period.
We watched a documentary,
Yeah.
actually, didn't we, at one of the Banff Mountain Film Festivals? I
Yeah.
think it was this past
And
year.
it's
You know, I was
powerful
talking
stuff.
to this young guy. We were doing a cultural camp, and this one youth guy, he woke up early in the morning. We were fire keeping, and he came out and he goes, "Uncle," he was calling me uncle. He goes, "I'm scared of bears and I'm hungry. I want McDonald's, eh?" And I said, "Look," I said, "you know where you are? You're in a garden here, and all your food is out here. You don't need McDonald's, and don't be scared." I said, "If you want to be scared, what if Ronald McDonald came out of the bush right now?" You know, we have to flip that world and
Yeah.
create that unity, right? And
Yeah.
it's not going to happen at Ronald McDonald House, but
Yeah. I mean, Ava and we've got our own experience about preparing to go to a different culture, because for 6 years after we got married, I was preparing our family to go to India.
Yeah.
And of all the
Thousands
places,
and thousands and thousands of pictures.
yeah,
lots
and
of
countless
food and-
dinners, right?
yes, of course.
But there was this preparation, this mental preparation of how things are. And
Yeah, and what
was it like when you got there?
You know what? It was so interesting because we really didn't feel shocked by anything. it was amazing. Kevin had really prepared us well. Now, that's not to say there weren't things that we were like, whoa, that really surprised us a bit, or maybe when it's in real life, it's a little different. But as far as shock goes, I wouldn't say so. Now, interestingly enough, we were there for only 8 months.
Yeah.
When we returned last August, that was the culture shock.
Right.
Coming back to the Western world where lifestyle is so different, the belief systems are really, really different, the pace is so different, and it took me months to really get used to being back in North America.
You just triggered something for me with regards to the First Nations, Aboriginal, Inuit, Métis, or Indigenous, right, and Indians, right. The first Spaniards that came to the Americas, they had visitations with the people from here, and they called them in God. And in Latin language, it means in Dios, which becomes Los Indios. And when they came back to recon from what they found in the Americas to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, that they said, we found the Garden of Eden, we found the people in God. And they said, look, we don't want to hear about that. We want their gold, we want their resources, everything.
Yep.
So to remind my friends and my people out there, like in Dios, we are in God. We're not Indians, Indigenous, Aboriginal, and our a name for us is Anishinaabeg, which means from heaven on earth. And we are those life givers and caretakers of the heaven and the earth. It's micro, macro, and we're finding that, right? But going back to that culture shock, that our own people, we have to realize and empower who we truly are. And when we see that, we will, like a lot of the northern communities are infested with the Christian mind, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with Christ. Christ in ancient Aramaic means circle, right? And we had those teachings here, that he came to the Americas and he said, everything's okay, I got to go back, But we have cross teachings too as well,
Right.
And the Mi'kmaq, we have, our ancestors from the East Coast, the teachings of the cross there is that the 4 quadrants of the cross is trust and belief, wise counsel. Okay, so trust and belief, wise counsel, all would be provided on the journey of life. And there's a star and a moon, so under the night and the day, if we trust and believe and use our wise counsel, all will be provided on the journey of life. And that's the Mi'kmaq Grand Council cross.
Right.
So these crosses existed before the founding and Christian, so we have to be aware. And, people are holding on to fundamentalism, right? And they're being extremists.
And dogma.
Yes, extremists.
Well, yeah, and it's unfortunate that the egoic interpretation of teachings, these ancient teachings, have led to a misinterpretation of them. So you look at the way,
or maybe some intentional
intentional, yes, or
mistranslation.
intentional, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to control. So, we can look at this in a number of different ways with regards to the development of humanity through time, right? As to whether or not that's filling a certain need or purpose
Or it's a
amongst
stage
people.
of development
It's a
for
stage
humans,
of development.
It's a tool to conquer people as well. Let's look
Sure
at
it is,
the wars in
absolutely.
Iraq and Iran, and
Yeah.
infiltration of their traditional knowledge and their leadership. Omar Gaddafi, he was for the people, by the people. He was going to introduce a gold coin that would have thrown the whole New World Order monetary system off.
Yeah.
America's bankrupt. They got no gold. They got a lot of trillions of dollars in debt to who?
Yeah.
And you know what? This guy's going to introduce real currency, coin, gold. They totally took him out because he was going to rebuild back the fundamental currency of the people, where you can trust.
Even Kennedy.
Yes, absolutely.
He had legislation drafted. It was written up.
Yes.
All right, and it was going to be introduced in order so that the U.S. government, for the people, could
Have
print
their
it,
own bank.
have their own bank and their own
Yes.
currency.
Yeah.
And that was a week before he was assassinated.
Yeah, it's interesting that you
So, I mean,
mentioned
what's
Gaddafi
going on
because
here?
we actually met somebody recently who actually lives right here in Thunder Bay who met his brother.
Yeah.
She spent a lot of time overseas doing peace work, and she has the same belief about Gaddafi. She said it's not what people said he
No.
was. There's
Yep.
a whole different side there, a whole different back information
Yep.
that people haven't been privy to.
Yeah, these news that are coming out to us, CNN, Fox News, whatever you're getting your news from, you be very careful. They're orchestrating the news to manipulate your mind
Yep.
and heart, so that
Yep.
you can say, as a patriot, like even the word patriotism means that no matter what happens, we're collectively going to do what we're going to do. So under patriotism, they manipulate the knowledge to utilize the patriotism that say, okay, we're all going to Iraq. God bless America. Let's do this. Let's kill them all,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so that mentality is moving on a lemming mentality, right?
Yep.
And it's controlled
It's
by
the sheep,
medias. Yes. So we have to. The beauty of the internet is so powerful. I recommend everybody get out of those social networks once in a while, as much as you can, and go do some research,
Yeah.
Right.
because it is about education
And
and
it's
knowledge.
available. It's out there.
It is
Yes,
there.
go do
It's
some
out there.
homework and listen to some YouTube and you know, filter it out and find your colleagues and your friends and do share that little spark that ignites us to get us into the real light, right?
Yeah. And start asking what's really going on.
Yeah.
We'll have
and-
no conspiracy theories here.
What's
Yeah.
what's really going on here? Yeah.
You know, the
Cons-
bush and the burning of the
Burning
trees.
of-
I was
yeah,
sharing
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
That when I was we interviewed a Navajo elder before 911 took place, and he mentioned there's going to be a burning of the trees. And what that ended up happening was the 911, the Twin Towers went down. That's the tree of monetary United Nations and monetary trees. The Pentagon, the war tree went down. You know, and it really opened my eyes up. Okay, they knew this. So the trees, the foundations today are genetically modified trees, right? So we got to go back to the nature. And so, yes, the you know, the 911, the atrocities, of course. You know, several thousand people went down with that. But then what came out of that was that they went over to Iraq
War.
and
Yep.
created a war and killed millions,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
to justify their war machines.
And you
right?
know what's interesting is that, you know, we've all been the victims of the media at one time or another,
Yes.
right? And being conditioned to believe certain things about certain people. And I think that the Middle East has gotten a really bad rap, to be honest with you.
Of course.
And I think the danger of generalizing and painting everybody with the same brush is such that, you know, for instance, we have friends from Kuwait, we have friends from Iraq, and when you talk to them, you get this whole different picture of what really went on over there, and not just that, but about their religion. I mean, we're led to believe that Muslims are so bad and they want to kill everybody and everything, but our Muslim friends don't believe that.
Well, the history is that, okay, Abraham had 3 sons, and the 3 religions came from that, you know, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, you know, and they're all fighting for Jerusalem, you know, and it was 3 sons
Yeah.
from Abraham, if you look at those stories, right? So, yes, they've been manipulated, and, you know, hijacked, and they're creating these false flags and false disinformations and what have you, you know, like look at America here. The indigenous populations are all living on reserves. All their lands have
Yep.
been destroyed. The mentality today is, oh, they're drunk Indians, they're uneducated, they're incompetent, we need to help them. We're okay, we'll got their best interests, you know. Okay, now we have to bring that home again and break those stereotypes, you know,
Right.
for one another. And we got to do it here in Thunder Bay and in the Sault Ste. Marie. We have to look at ourselves and find what's happening. And not
So the
everybody's
centers-
for that. Yes,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
city centers have to.
But the centers you want to create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and we can start right here, and we can start in Sault Ste. Marie and
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
create these so that people can empower themselves, and then
Well, it's about
Make the
building community. And I think, you know, Kevin, we talked about that earlier. And it really is about bringing people together in community again, right? And I think that's a step in the right direction.
And we circle up. One of the things we always say is we circle up. And Wise Counsel is creating that wise counsel of circle, right? And we do that in a good way. And we're all equal. Nobody's better or greater than when you sit in the circle. And we got the wisdom of elders and traditional knowledge keepers in those circles. and we'll be able to share what it is that we need. What is the community telling us? What are our children telling us? What have we learned from the past? What have we learned from your people, our people, those people? You know, there was an Occupy Wall Street interview going on, and the reporter from CNN was reporting down on Wall Street, and they said, "What's going on down there?" They said, "Well, they're all sitting in circles and talking in circles." So the way the reporter said it was that it was just like a fruitless,
talking in
mindless.
circles. Yeah.
Yeah. But the reality is, okay, if they sat in circles and it's we the people, once again, in council, and those circles are real, those people have real concerns, and those real concerns can come out and be actioned.
Yeah.
You know, whether financially, materially, spiritually, mentally, right? And this is where we're at. We have financiers out there that want to help. We have people that are carpenters that want to help. We have all kinds of helpers, and it's like the hub of the wheel, right? So I'm a traditional firekeeper. We sit around that fire. We bring our council, and we sit, and so that is like a spoke, right? The hub is the creator,
Yep.
and we're spiritual people learning to be human. So we're building a team, really, and that's one of the fundamentals is to access the mind and heart, become one mind and one heart, you know.
That's wonderful. And that's exactly where we believe we're going by planting this little seed today
Yeah,
and
for
yesterday and, you know, having the space of the Mind Vault that we have here locally. We're excited about everything that could come from that. And, you know, so we're really happy to have met you, Kevin, because we know that
Oh, yeah, it's
there's
been
a
a
lot of
privilege, yeah.
great things that we can do together
Yes.
in that team building and in that community building. So that just, you know, just fires me up a little bit.
So drop
You know?
everything you got, and we're going to put in everything you got, because we can do this, people. You know?
I
This
do
is the
believe, and
beauty.
Oh, yeah.
you know, it's like we talked about earlier. I don't believe that we have to go down that trajectory towards that materialism, which means ultimate devastation. I do believe that we can turn right instead of left.
Yes,
you know, and that we can really get to a place of coming back to our truth, coming back to our true nature, coming back to our roots, and come back together as a community. And I don't think it's too idealistic. I know it's possible.
And you know what stops people? What stops people is the start.
That's right.
Yeah. You just gotta do something.
Yeah, you just got to do something.
Yeah, and
Just
we will.
do
And that's the
something.
exciting thing, is the seeds and the growing and the fruits.
That's right.
Right, and the dreams and people coming together in council. And
Right.
I'm excited to be able to share with the Mind Vault and here at Camp TV, and to have those listeners have listening to us, right? And
Right.
it's exciting. So a fire starts from a spark, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's just take a second then. Let's take a couple seconds and
Well, we
talk
covered
about.
a lot of ground
We
here
have
tonight.
talked. A lot, yeah, we
We
have.
covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, and so, but let's just talk about some of the things we have coming up at the Mind Vault, Kevin, so
sure.
that we can let our listeners know, especially locally, if they want to take advantage of what we have going on. June 20th to the 22nd, we have an event coming up, which we call
Yep.
Quantum Transformation Weekend Intensive. And, you know, it's exactly what Kevin talked about. It's about doing the work first in ourselves, doing that inner work,
Get ourselves clear.
get ourselves
Yep.
clear, do our own transformation, which is then going to help our families and then our communities, and then go even further out from there.
That's right.
So if anybody wants any information about that, you can always go to our website, mindvaultnetwork.com, and the information will be up there as of tomorrow about that event. And the other things that we have coming up are on Thursday nights, we started something called the Mind Vault Network Business Meetup. And what that's for is for people to come together, kind of like creating that circle, right, of entrepreneurs who have an intention to be change makers in their communities. And so we want them to come together and form that circle, network, learn together, and share, and you know, maybe grab a hold of some projects that they can do together as well.
For sure.
And
And
so
we'll have
that's
some
something.
presentations and
Yeah,
things
and
as
there's
well to go.
presentations,
Yeah.
opportunities to learn more. So that's happening on Thursday nights at the Mind Vault at 7:30. So again, everything's on our website.
But tomorrow,
Tomorrow. Yeah, Tuesday.
all right, Tuesday is our bi-weekly information night.
Right.
And we welcome everybody to come down, learn about specifically what we do, and how you can get better results.
Yeah, let go of those limitations, those fears, and those emotions that keep
That's
us
right.
trapped, right? Keep us enslaved,
Yeah.
really.
So if you're addicted to emotions, right?
Energy
Addicted to
in
them.
motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are ways that you can.
There are and there's lots
Become
of different
unaddicted to
ways,
them, yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
we just want to share about how we might be able to help people to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just some of the things that we have coming up. And the last thing I want to mention is I want to mention Kevin's website that he would like people to go and look at. Actually, Kevin, why don't you share
Yes,
that with
it's
people?
it's a website that I'm involved with. It's Elders and Spiritual Leaders. It's of America, and we're building ourselves again through education, and we'd like to share that with people. And it's called worldwideweb.cis Central, CENTRAL, and it's a movement of 500 years plan to get ourselves out of this, and we're looking for alliances. We're building conferences. We're building embracing our spirit as Indigenous Americans to help the world. So we're putting in centers coast to coast in communities, but with the communities. We're not telling nobody. We're just helping.
Right.
And we're going to be looking at a conference this summer.
Cool.
And it's very, very nice. And
Do you know where is that conference going to be?
it's going to be out of Sault Ste. Marie, in the
Okay,
heart of the
excellent.
Great Lakes, and we're going to
Excellent.
bring in the traditional knowledge of the Great Lakes, the Anishinaabe people, and we're going to call in international people to come in.
That's a
And we're
good driving
rebuilding.
distance from Thunder Bay.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah,
Yes,
we'll
of
definitely
course.
come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll let
That's
people
nice.
know, and it's really nice, and
Excellent.
Well, it sounds to me like everybody's starting to come together. It's like Kevin said before, we're not going to focus on our differences anymore. We're going to start focusing on what we have in common.
Similarities.
Are similar, and that
Absolutely.
is that we're all human,
Yeah.
right?
We breathe the same air,
Absolutely.
sit in the same sun.
Yeah.
yes,
We're all
Yeah.
the same. So I think that really just makes me feel like we're really going in the right direction. And if we get even more people on board with that whole thought process, I think that we're going to be headed upwards and onwards.
Well, as the culture out of Australia, they say, "Face the sun and let the shadows fall behind." You know.
Mm.
Well, that sounds like a really good way to end the show to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming.
you.
Yes. Thank you very
Kevin.
much.
Yeah,
It's great.
And
and
listeners and the camp.
Yeah, and thanks to
TV.
Camp The Pound. Thanks to the crew in there.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. Katie, our producer,
Yeah.
makes everything possible.
Angels, there are angels in the
They are.
background.
They are angels in their own way. Absolutely. So thanks a lot, everyone. And we'll catch you next week at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on camptv.ca.
And who is going to be with us will be a surprise.
It is a surprise.
Keep the mystery. Bama Piguaman.
Thank you.
Yes, miigwech.
Good night.
Yeah.
Life's good, you know I